What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode. Today's Tackle Tip Tuesdays, because it's none other than Tuesday. That's right, guys. We're almost halfway there through this week, and here before you know it, we'll be on the weekend out there, hopefully reeling in a big one. If not, at least we'll be out there having fun. That's all that matters. But today we're going to be going over a style of lure that you can throw during the summertime months. That'll hopefully help you guys get out there and land more fish in the boat, kayak, bank, whichever it is you might fish. And that specific lure is going to be the Carolina rig. A lot of y'all that's been in the bass fishing world for a while already know what the Carolina rig is and know how to properly use it and rig it up. But for you that don't know or haven't been, in the fishing game for too long, I'm going to show you guys how to properly set up a Carolina rig and where to usually throw a Carolina rig at to help you, land more bass. Pretty much this time of year when you're in your summer months, your outside temps are usually, from the, I don't know how you'd say it, from I guess high 70s all the way up to the 90s. Sometimes 100 degrees depending on where you're at. Water temps can vary anywhere from high 80s to, high 80s to low 70s. And pretty much during that time when them water temps go up, your bass typically tend to go deep. Unless you get out there and get on a good morning time bite. But for them midday bites when you can't figure out, where they're at or what to throw, they're usually going deep. And this lure right here should be able to help you out, guys, get out there and hopefully catch more and land more. So, without further ado, I'll show you guys how to do it. So sit back, enjoy the ride. Alright guys, the Carolina rig. It's a technique, it's set up similar to the Texas rig, but it's just a little bit different. It consists of a few more parts that you gotta tie in there. So the parts that you're basically gonna need would be one, bobber stops, and this is actually a personal preference. Where I fish out of a kayak all the time, this actually helps. And you that fish out of kayaks, I actually want you guys to do something. I want you to set up the Carolina rig without a bobber stop and throw it, and then I want you to take it off and put a bobber stop on there and throw it and see what you think. Next thing you're gonna need, of course, will be your weight. An egg style weight, just like this. You can throw either lead or tungsten, whatever your preference is. Next thing you're gonna need, of course, is a little bead. Color doesn't matter. Next thing you're gonna need, it's important to this setup, right here, a barrel swivel. This is a size 7 barrel swivel. I feel it's just right. It's not too big and it's not too little. It's a perfect size, I feel, for a Carolina rig. Next thing you're going to need, of course, is your leader line. And then last but not least, your hook. I like throwing either a 4 to a 5/0 EWG for creature baits. And for worms, I like throwing a 4, of course, to a 5/0 worm hook. And then as far as creature bait goes, just some examples. This right here is the Guggen Squad Trench Hog, Alabama Crawl. They also make a smaller version of this. And then another creature bait that's actually landed a lot of guys fish over the years and probably cashed quite a few checks would be the old famous Zoom Lizard. That right there is a bass catching machine, either on Carolina rig or Texas rig. And then as far as worms go, this right here is a 11-inch C-Mac net bait ribbon tail. I like using either a 10-inch to a 12-inch ribbon tail worm. As far as color goes, it'll just be up to you and your water clarity and your personal preference. Now, gear. As for me right now, I'm throwing a Carolina rig. This is a 7.3 medium heavy moderate fast tip with a 7:5 gear ratio reel on it. I'm using 15-pound fluorocarbon line. And as far as your line goes, you want to use anywhere from 15-pound to 20-pound fluorocarbon. Because like I was saying, you're going to be fishing this deep in a lot of offshore spots, either around brush piles, offshore humps, points, ledges, whichever it may be. So you're really going to want to have that strength in your line. But I prefer fluorocarbon, that way you also got that sensitivity in your line. And as far as rods go, I said I was using a medium heavy. Well, you can also use a heavy if you want to. Either one works amazingly well. I just prefer to use the 7.3 medium heavy for that just tad bit extra sensitivity, because you're going to be fishing deep. You want to be able to feel that pressure and feel that bite. So let's get into how to rig this up. First off, you're going to, of course, put your bobber stop on there, which I've already applied. Next thing you want to do is put your weight on there. After you run your weight, you're going to grab that little bead I was showing at the beginning. You're going to want to run it on there. You're going to have it just like that. Bobber stop, weight, then bead. Or if you don't want to use the bobber stop, weight, then bead. Okay? After you get them 2 to 3 things on there, then you're going to want to get your barrel weight, tie her on there. Knot totally doesn't matter. Whatever your preference is, your favorite knot is. I'm just going to tie a quick, simple clinch knot here. Few roundabouts should do. I normally wet them, but I'm just going to hinge it down real quick. And then once you tie your knot on there, you're going to want to cut that tag end off, of course. That way it's not in your way. Whoops. Okay, here comes the part where if you're not familiar with the Carolina rig, you're probably thinking, well, hey now, I got that tied on there, where's the hook go? That right there, my friends, is where the leader line comes into play at. And as far as your leader line goes, I like using pretty much the same pound test as I'm throwing on my reel. Like I said, I'm throwing 15-pound fluorocarbon already on my rod, so I'm going to want my leader line to roughly be 15-pound fluorocarbon also. Or if you're throwing 20-pound line, you can throw a 15-pound leader. Then you're going to want to tie that leader on there. And maybe. Sorry, guys. As far as your knot goes, that's total preference. I just find a clinch knot to be a little tad easier to get on here. I'm just going to give it a few loops. You want to do way more than that if you're using that style knot. Hinge it down. Then you're going to want to cut your tag end off, of course. Okay. As far as the leader line goes, you're going to run at least, I don't know, 7-8 inches out. And I'll explain why here in a minute. You want to cut that. And then last, well, not last but not least, but the next thing, of course, tie your hook on. Knot, totally up to whatever you want to tie. I'm just going to tie a quick palmer knot. If I can see the eye loop. That way I can get this on there real quick and show you guys the final setup and go in more detail. Hinge that down right there. Just a quick little tip. Always wet your knots, guys. I'm just doing this real quick, but anytime you're tying a knot to go cast the lure, always wet your knot to hinge it down. Makes it better. And then last but not least, guys, your bait can either consist, like I said, of a creature style bait or a ribbon tail worm. Once you get that bad boy on there, you are officially set up and you have a completed Carolina rig. Well, if you're using the bobber stop, be sure to run it down. And then there you guys have it. And here's the completed setup. Bobber stop, weight, bead, barrel swivel, leader line all the way down to your hook and your lure. And pretty much like I was saying, guys, this time of year, it's summertime. You know, it's hot out. Water temperatures are hot. The bass go deep this time of year. And it's a great way to really get out there and fish a lot of them offshore spots. Like I said, you can throw this around offshore brush piles, offshore stumps, humps, rock piles, ledges, points, whatever. And pretty much the way the Carolina rig will work is when you cast it out there and it finally hits bottom, this weight right here is going to set on the bottom, right? And your lure ultimately is going to kind of have like a suspension to it. It's going to kind of suspend a little bit in the water column because this right here, of course, is going to be weightless, all but, you know, the weight and the hook. But all your weight's going to be down here on this. Or vice versa, you throw in, say, a Texas rig, most of the time your weight's going to be right up here against this. Well, your weight's up there, and that's why you want to throw at least, like I was saying, a 7 to 8 inch leader. That way you got that little bit of a gap between your weight and your lure there. That way it gets kind of a better suspension in that water column. And pretty much all you want to do when you have this out there, you just kind of want to just slow drag it across the bottom. If you don't want to slow drag it, just give it kind of short little pops, you know, kind of like how you'd fish a Texas rig. You either drag it or pop, or yeah, drag it or pop it. Either one, guys. And like I said, this right here is a great technique to use in the summertime, because like I said, a lot of times you get out there, you think they're on a shallow water bite. Most of the time they're not. It just really depends on their mood. But when they're deep, this right here should definitely help you guys get out there and help you get bit, and hopefully help you guys land a lot more fish in these hot days that we have coming. So I hope this video has been helpful to a lot of y'all new bass fishermen. Maybe some of you old fishermen kind of forgot this technique. But hope you guys are able to get out there and use what I've showed you guys here, and hopefully catch some decent bass here this summer. But if you guys want to see more Tackle Tip Tuesdays, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Let me know what you guys would like to see me go over and show you guys how to do. And of course, like always, guys, tight lines.